Good morning. I am so excited. We are back with another The Masterpiece You Are segment for the HIT retreat, Healing in Truth retreat. And this morning I have Virginia Underwood, who is a transformational coach who's led many other retreats. And I'm so excited to have her today and interview her. Welcome, Virginia, and share a little bit about the Healing in Truth retreat and what that means to you and how you decided to get started with it.
Yes, so thank you, Erica. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning and so excited for this retreat. This is something that's very near to my heart. I experienced sexual trauma in many different forms throughout my childhood, young adulthood, through, family members, other children in the community, and being raped. So, I have worked very diligently in my life to overcome the victimization of these occurrences and to really see the silver lining of what, it's been teaching me, which is truly to open my heart even more and to love everyone, even the perpetrators, because they didn't know what they were doing. If they knew
Yeah.
what they were doing, they wouldn't have done it. So they were sick individuals who just needed support. And that is not condoning the behavior at
Right.
all.
Right.
But I have so much love and space in my heart for them, which has
Yes.
helped to really just open myself up to love in so many different forms.
Oh, yeah. So good. Goodness. Oh, Virginia. Yeah. I think that's so helpful that you even say that because many times, individuals believe that, like, well, these are just horrible people, and there tends to be a place in individuals that throughout the healing process, somewhere along the way, when they really get clear and healed, that they go into a forgiveness process, and it's not a one and done. Like, I mean, Virginia's been doing this for years, I've been doing this for years. So anybody who's listening to this, like, if you're in that state of still you have anger towards them, hatred, resentment, that's okay. You're right where you
Mm.
belong right now. It was not a time that it just went away from me. It was not a time that it just went away for Virginia. These are layers of healing that we worked through. And somewhere along the way, you go through an area of accepting what had happened, and then later moving into forgiving what happened, and then later, maybe as that even heals deeper, getting into a place of, oh, like, these people are hurt people who were harmed themselves, and then once again, with the programming that they had, harmed somebody else. And don't feel like, if you're listening to this, that you have to be all the way over here, because that's not what we're looking for. We're just here to serve and to love you and to let you know you're not alone in this journey of going through trauma. But thank you for sharing that, because it does open your heart at such a different level. And I love, you have this beautiful book called Stumbling Towards the Heart. I'm going to just show, I've got it on Kindle right here. And so share a little bit about your book, because I was reading and just looks amazing.
Thank you. This book has really come out of my healing journey and the experience of opening my heart. You know, I just spoke about the sexual trauma, but I experienced, different forms of abuse, neglect, um, horrible relationships. Oh, excuse me, cat. um, very uh unhealed, when we're unhealed, we're attracting all of that into our life. And so it was my process of recognizing the patterns that these people were mirroring to me, these
Mhm.
experiences were mirroring to me, and then learning how to keep my heart open no matter what was happening. And so, you know, and it's also my story of opening to my intuition because I've been psychic since I was a child.
Mhm.
I've been able to see and hear, people who have crossed over, energies that are on the other side of the veil, so to speak, since I was a little girl. And it was something that was shut down
Mhm.
very early on. And so throughout my book, I weave in how this energy has kind of moved through my life and
Mhm.
helped bring some of these really challenging experiences, not to harm me, to, destroy me, but to open me even more. When we talk about a broken heart, that
Mhm.
brokenness is what allows more light
Mhm.
in.
Mhm.
And
So
so it's just
beautiful.
my journey of experiencing this. I went through a fire in Northern California
Mm.
that just devastated my town. And it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because
Mm.
it helped me to let go of attachments in such a deeper way that just opened me up to this sense of freedom like I've never experienced before. So,
Wow. So beautiful. It's so interesting you say that. So, often we think that, like, especially if you've been through trauma and if you've been through scarcity, and I know as a kid, I got, hand me downs from the church or things like that. I didn't have the things that I have today, kinds of things. And then just all kinds of things of that feeling. Like, I remember all my stuff. One of our family members moved in a house while I moved with my grandparents to another state. And when we came back, all my stuff was gone and thrown in the trash, and, all these childhood things. And I remember thinking, oh, I want to make sure I protect all my stuff. Like, that stuff is something that gave me joy, right? And not understanding, but when you're in trauma, sometimes that was the only thing. Like, you literally
right.
sometimes hold on to a stuffed animal, and that's the only thing that gives you comfort. Or, I saw your cat, and I remember as a little kid going into the barn and, talking with animals, talking with my cat, talking with my horse, those kinds of things. Just like, or my dog, just feeling so close to them in nature, feeling like they were the only persons in God that really got me, kind of thing. And so it's so interesting that you say that, because I've thought of that a lot when my husband and I sold everything and bought a boat. And I shouldn't say we didn't sell everything, but we sold most everything. And as we were going through everything and bought a boat to travel on the ocean for a year, we it was just so freeing. It was like, oh, this feels so good. And then when we moved back, getting a house again and starting to fill it up, I was like, I don't want all the stuff that I had before. You just really start to look at life differently. Like, some of that clutter blocks blessings.
Yes. And that's what I wanted to bring up next is how much energy are in our objects. And I had, my family, my mother's side of the family, we can trace back to the Mayflower.
Ah,
And I had objects that had taken the voyage across the ocean
mm,
and they were destroyed in the fire. And I had been carrying them. My mother had carried them, her mother, on back through the line. And so
wow.
all of these objects had all of this energy, these limiting beliefs, this,
Mhm.
and so
Trauma
letting
and
go,
scarcity. Yeah.
yeah, letting go of all of that. It's amazing how freeing it
Wow.
is.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I also went through a fire when I was 18. My grandparents' house burnt up. By then, I had already moved out, and I moved in with my parents. And I was a teenager, but I still had a hope chest in there, and all the things that my grandparents had brought had that were like. records, our records of lineage and all that kind of stuff was in there. And, again, some of the things that they brought over my great grandparents or my great great grandparents, I can't remember which, came over from Germany, and like they had stuff from that. And so you saying that, that's so interesting, because I always thought that's so sad that I don't have those things. But wow, yeah, you're right. There is a lot of research on that today, is like how energy things hold energy just like we hold energy. How
Yes.
neat. Yeah. And what a great perspective. And not saying, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that seems almost far out there, and that's okay. Like, you are where you're supposed to be. Like, neither one of us got to this place. And I will also say, I am, for all those who've heard me before, I am very backed in brain science, and Virginia's too. So I was reading on some of her stuff, and so how she had talked about, like, learning that, there's the different parts of the brain, body, and mind, and then also there's the energy system. And so all of those things contribute to who we are, and we have to really work on balancing, clearing, healing each and every part of those things. And trauma is in the brain system, and your brain is a program, and that program is programmed from the time of right before birth, like a few months before birth, in the gestational, when hearing starts to take place. The baby can start feeling and experiencing already. And then we also know by epigenetics that we have um, you know, DNA types of genetical lineage that's passed on. And so, I say it like generational curses, because my background is I do a lot of spiritual work, dealing with biblical, and I always tell people I am a Heinz 57 Christian, because I love the Lord, and I know God loves each and every person, and it's not a religion that he loves. And so that's where I come from. But my background is neuropsych, and very grounded in the biological and science parts of life. And these things have all been proven by science today. So I just wanted to move into that and let you share a little bit about your background in the brain science and somatic work, and what you like to do in retreats to help people heal through some of that.
Yeah, so I received a counseling degree, I think it was about almost 20 years ago, and worked in the field for a few years, but recognized the limitations of what I could do. And, as I've mentioned, I've always been very connected to psychic energy, my guides, my ancestors, and have really heard their voices, and they have truly led me. Um, and I've been fascinated with science since I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really interesting for me is, I experienced late stage neurological Lyme disease when I
Mm.
was in my late 30s, early 40s, and through that process, like some part of my brain, the labeling part of my brain got turned off.
Oh,
So
that's actually a great thing, right?
it really is.
Not
So
the Lyme disease, because it's hard to go through. So I don't want to, but wow.
yeah. And so so I've really had to rely on my intuition and the that connection to God, spirit, whatever you want to call that, energy that permeates everything
Mm-hmm.
to help lead me um, to different modalities that have really worked. I mean, I've seen the difference that they've made in my life, somatic
Yes.
practices, breath work.
Yes.
It's so simple. I mean, we breathe every day, all day long,
Mm-hmm.
but it's usually a process that's not thought about, right?
Right.
It's just something that we do, but if we start to pay attention to it,
Mm.
what we really notice, especially if we've experienced a lot of trauma, is that we breathe very shallowly. We're
Mm.
just
Right.
breathing like up here at the top of our
Yes.
lungs, which
Yes.
we know we're not getting all of the oxygen flowing through the body, which helps to calm the nervous system
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
regulate. So
Yes.
being able to consciously breathe and take the time to fill the lungs all the way down to, the abdomen, and just even 5 minutes of doing that. I mean,
Yes.
I remember 20 years ago them talking about just taking 5 deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only like a minute or two. But if
Mm-hmm.
you go a little bit further,
Mm-hmm.
that just calms the nervous system down so much, and you're able to, we get so constricted, right?
Yes.
So in this little
Yes.
tiny, and that's fear. And what we know about fear is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all the F's now,
Yeah.
um, where the blood is very constricted. It's only going to the parts of the body that are necessary to get you out of that situation. So you're
Yes.
not able to see the bigger picture.
That's right. That's right.
So when we're able to really breathe deeply, that
Mhm.
opens up those blood vessels. It opens up our ability to see what's actually happening, and potentially what we thought was a threat
Mhm.
really is not at all.
Yes.
And um
Ah, I love that. I appreciate you saying that because I often working with people, I've worked with clients over 35 years in counseling and coaching, and um, you often get people in, and when they first start working on things, obviously, we start with basics, and one of those is breath. Often I teach people how to breathe and help them learn how when they're stuck. And many times they realize as they start paying attention to the breath that they hold their breath. And going back to the energy science side, I wish I had that picture with me, but I often will show them a diagram of what they've done when they look at the electrical system of the body when a person's not breathing. It shuts off from about the abdomen, the middle of the abdomen, up to only this part of the head, right? And so when it does that, it shows a red, like inflamed look in the body. It's so interesting. But then when you get them to relax and breathe, it shows a more green and blue color, and it goes all the way down to the feet, all the way to the top of the head. And it, comes out through the arms and hands. And it's so interesting because we've always heard the terms fight, flight, freeze, but then to see it like visually gives you a whole different perspective. And the breath, and I always think, and actually my book is Breath of Heaven, Manifesting God's Way, because the breath is the beginning. And for those who can relate to the biblical, he breathed life into them, right? And so the breath is talked about so much, and we as humans, that can be one of the most powerful things, is tuning into the breath and just paying attention and learning and resetting. And I tell people all the time, though, it requires a rewiring, because like you said, people don't realize, and after a while, they notice, oh, like I'm shallow breathing. I'm breathing up here in my chest space, or I'm holding my breath, because they're paying attention to a lot of things in the surroundings and feeling hypervigilant. But once you start doing a breathing system, I would encourage any person here, like, absolutely, we would love you to come to the retreat. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute about Virginia's got another retreat coming up too in Peru, and I really want to go to that one. That's so exciting. But just those of you who are listening, if you can't come to a retreat, if you don't have resources right now, like just learning to tune into the breath, set a timer on your phone that goes off once every 3 or 4 hours, and do some breath work. Just do some breath work. Tune in, pay attention, put your hand on your chest and your hand on your stomach, and notice, are you breathing all the way down into your stomach to where it goes into your diaphragm area there. And so, we learn this with vocal music and things like that, but just pay attention. How am I breathing? Oh, I notice. Yep, only here it's coming out instead. Or, oh, I notice I'm not even hardly breathing. It's even more shallow, so I must be holding my breath. And when you
Mhm.
do that, it opens up, but it's also, I love what you said because it's true, it opens up your perspective. So we know that when a person is hypervigilant, it narrows perspective. And then we're going to look for more potential dangers. And what I would say with my individuals who've gone through PTSD, helping them heal, is we often think that if I control enough of my environment, then I will feel better. But the truth is, that's not what happens. We actually end up creating more problems into our life because we misread information. And even a good person, when we're in hypervigilance, we can misunderstand them and go into attack or run away or freeze mode or fawn mode into, okay, whatever you think. So it's so important that we learn these tools. So if you're listening and you can't go to the retreat, take some time and set a timer down, and maybe you could go through like an exercise with us, Virginia, to show us a
Yes.
little bit what that would be like on here. Would you be able to do
Yeah.
that with us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, one of my favorite, it's a holotropic
Okay.
technique.
Okay.
So, what it will do, if you do it long enough, it's going to start to release things in your body.
Mm,
So, you may notice shaking. You may notice that your body starts to want to move. You may
mhm,
notice emotions that come up, and those could range from, giggling
mhm,
to bawling your eyes out.
mhm.
Because as we know, as we're learning, this trauma, these limiting beliefs are stored in our tissues. And so when we
Yes.
oxygenate our body, we are releasing that stored trauma, those limiting beliefs, which is a beautiful thing, but it's so uncomfortable in the process. So
Mhm,
what I really suggest people do is just sit with it. Don't go into the story, just observe it.
mhm,
Whatever's happening in the body, just observe it.
mhm.
Um, and allow it to kind of happen naturally, because if you can do that, it's going to release, it's going to move. As we know, everything in life is temporary,
Yes.
including feelings. If we can
Yes.
just sit with a feeling for 90 seconds,
Yes. 90
it
seconds. That's right.
will
Mhm.
move through us.
Yes.
So this technique, as I said, it's conscious connected breathing. And I would highly recommend putting one hand on your chest and one hand
Mhm,
on your abdomen.
mhm,
And for this, normally we don't want to breathe through our mouth.
mhm.
But for this exercise, what we want to do is over oxygenate our cells.
Okay.
So we breathe through the mouth. So we're breathing in through the mouth and we're exhaling through the mouth. And you want to breathe, so fill up um, your lungs all the way to the bottom. And as soon as it's full, you let go. As soon as you get to the bottom of the breath, you start breathing in again. So there's no pause whatsoever. It's just a continuous, and you don't have to make that noise. I do that, especially when I'm working with a client or in a group,
Yeah.
so that you can hear the sound to keep you in that rhythm. But it's, just filling the lungs. And I would recommend, 5 minutes is awesome. If you can do 7 minutes, and if you can do 7 minutes every day for even a week, you are going to notice significant changes in how you respond to your environment.
I
And
love that.
you can find music, like nice calming music that's about 5 to 7 minutes long, and just use that song as your guide or set a timer like you said.
Ah,
Um,
beautiful.
yeah.
I love that so much. And honestly, just doing it just that few seconds, and I'm excited, and this is wonderful, and I love this, and already was feeling good because I did my meditation, but I felt just a little bit more release in my shoulders. It's so interesting because you never know what you're holding on to. I mean, it is what it is. We can't, I don't, I tell people, you don't have to go looking for what it is. Why am I holding the whys that, our brain is powerful, and if we learn how to use it right, we can move out of trauma states, we can move out of stuck states, we can move out of just things like where we're trying to figure out something that we need to do better in our life. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but if we ask questions that move into why is this feeling stuck, guess what, your brain's going to go to why it's feeling stuck, and it's going to bring more and more, and you might get more and more curious, and it might create some triggers and traumas. So instead, going, what can I do in this moment that would make me feel better? And one of those is maybe going through and doing one of these things like Virginia mentioned. And you can find all kinds of people on YouTube who have some of these breath works that you can follow them through with those as well. But man, just so good. Just a few seconds, how much you can just start to release stuff that you didn't even know you were holding on to.
Yes.
So beautiful. Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about some of your retreats. I was so excited when I heard you say Peru. I've never been to Peru, so it's like, oh wow, how gorgeous.
Yes. So this will be my fourth trip to Peru.
Okay.
And the last three have just been me exploring, um, I feel a very deep connection, which is really interesting because, of course, I've always wanted to go see the ancient sites like
Mhm.
Machu Picchu, but
Mhm.
it wasn't at the top of my list.
Mm.
And about 4 years ago, um, I was going through some really intense life changes,
Mhm.
splitting with my partner of 20 years, um, and it called to me. And
Yeah.
so like I said, I've gone down. This will be my fourth trip, and I'm so excited to bring people with me. My
Yay.
daughter is my one of my co-facilitators.
Awesome.
She and I have been doing this healing work, since she was born, and she just turned 30 this year. So she is truly the reason that I am still on this planet. Um,
Uh,
Having her completely shifted my life. I was in suicidal ideation and deep depression for so much of my life. And while having her didn't immediately snap me out of that, it
right.
actually got me to go deeper into the depression because
Yes.
now I feel stuck on this planet
Mhm.
because I have this responsibility.
Mhm.
But at any rate, she has been my inspiration, my,
Mhm.
companion on this healing journey. She's been my guinea pig.
Mhm.
Everything that I learned in all the different techniques,
Yeah.
hypnotherapy, Reiki. I
Mhm.
was actually trained in Reiki when
Mhm.
I was pregnant with her.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yes, she's incredibly sensitive to energy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're going to, and she's a naturopathic doctor, herbalist, and coach.
Love
And so
that.
she has some really great resources on, getting more in touch with nature and different, herbal remedies and things that you can use to help support this healing journey. And then we have a friend who is a yogi,
Mhm.
amazing yogi. And so she's going to be leading us through some really beautiful yoga practices to really and yoga is another one of those somatic practices that we just finished a retreat in Colorado last month,
Mhm.
and I did yoga 8 days in a row, which is not normal for me. A couple times
Mhm.
a week is great. 8 days in a row, wow, you are really working through
Yeah.
more of that, limiting beliefs and bringing up the
Yes.
the unhealed part. So, yeah, so we're
Yes,
going
so cool.
to this beautiful center in the Sacred Valley.
Hmm.
Um, it's surrounded by mountains and beautiful flowers and farmland, and we will, have lots of downtime so you can just be and just
Love
experience
that.
the magic of this land because it is
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And we'll go to a few different ancient sites so you can, you know, get into the energy of what our ancient ancestors knew, which we are
Mhm.
rediscovering now.
Yes. Yeah, so beautiful. Well, and and hopefully, the Healing and Truth Retreat, maybe one of these days, we will all go to Peru as because Linda's dream, and I love Linda brought Virginia and I together. We didn't know each other before, but I feel like she's a soul sister. When we met, just so many amazing similarities, and that's how God works. He just brings you into, and you could just feel her love and how much she loves people and wants to help them on their journey, not just because of her journey, but because she sees the power of what happens when you're healed and experience it for her own self and now wants to do that for others. And so I just love that so much. But hopefully, Linda's dream is to have these every quarter and then later moving out to other places. And so, hopefully one of these days that'll be one of our travel retreats going to another country because you're right when we go to a place that is I guess maybe the best word that I can come up with. Since I had a brain injury, sometimes I struggle with those things too. But it's that it's unadulterated, right? We don't in different islands like that. They still have a whole lot less well, like for us, it'd be Americanite, but like there's so much more of the culture there. There's so much more of the greenery. They like really protect their lands and their trees and their artifacts and things like that. So just so different being out in the country and in those magical places that God put on
Yeah.
this amazing earth for us to experience life. So I love that so much. So let's talk a little bit more about the HIT retreat because that's what's brought us together too. Is like, so what will you be doing at the HIT retreat?
Well, so part of my one of my favorite modalities is it's called shamanic journeying.
Hmm.
So it's using the drum to create a trance state,
Hmm.
and I will be leading everyone through a inner child kind of meditation using the drum to deepen the experience to really help you connect with that younger part of yourself that experienced the trauma and to help, you know, it's time to reparent them, right? Because
Yes.
most of us did not have ideal parents or we
Yeah.
wouldn't have experienced all the trauma.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
going to be a
So
beautiful
beautiful.
opportunity to reconnect with those parts of ourselves and to just give them some love and support. And
Yes. I
yeah,
love
so
that
I'm
so
so
much.
excited.
I love that so much. So I also have a background in music therapy and things like that too. I didn't get a certification. But I've done lots of training in it and drums. I trained with Jim Donovan and his work with drumming and music and the modalities and what it does to the brain and body system. If you guys aren't familiar with Jim Donovan, he went through a massive car accident and same thing, a lot of brain injury kinds of stuff, and had difficulties within his whole body system and re-healed himself by going through drumming and humming and all the different things. And so love that so much. I'm also trained in inner child, and I think that's so healthy and important when you've had trauma to go back and reparent the inner child. And just how much I just really love that work because when you do, you're giving them the tools that you now have that they wouldn't have had back then. And it's so beautiful because I will tell you, even on a personal journey, when I did inner child work, it was like something shifted within me. It's been a lot of years back, and I still every once in a while do some inner child because it's always good to come back and love that inner child. But it was like something in me that felt a brokenness shifted and healed, came together, and made me feel more like I'm not looking outside of myself now for love, even though I know God loves me, and that's a whole different story. And I don't care what your beliefs are, I always knew God loved me. I didn't know I loved me. And I
Yes.
didn't know I had worth. I didn't know I was worthy of love because of the things that happened to me. And so when I did the inner child work, and I have this, I can tell you thousands, not a few, but thousands of people I've done inner child work with, they say, it's like I feel different, like something comes together, like I'm not over here going, don't you care about who, all these different things, looking for this person who's going to stay or love you. Instead, finding this peace within yourself. People may come or go, and that has nothing to do with your worth. And I don't care who you are, if you've been through trauma. Like I said, I love God with all my heart, soul, and mind. I know He loves me, and I didn't have doubts that He loved me, but I had doubts that there was people in this world that I could trust and love. But once I did the inner child work, it was like, oh, that feels different. I'm not over here having to wonder so much. I'm being able to be, and the right people come in my life and stay in my life. And when people leave out of my life, I'm able to go, well, that was just a journey, and that's okay. There's seasons and reasons, and oh my goodness, it wasn't because of something I did that God moved them to another state. Like before I worked on inner child, I would think those kinds of things. I'm like, God, why do you take this person out of my life, or whatever. Like I'm like, oh, it has nothing to do with me, man. I was so self-absorbed, and not because I'm a bad person, but because I'm looking for people to love me on the outside. And when
Right.
you heal that on the inside, it's so different.
Yes. Hugely different. You know, it's about wholeness. It's about accepting all the parts of ourselves. And those inner children, we may have been that in our past, but that part of us is still here.
That's
It's
right.
still active. It's still working through us. And so,
Hmm.
if we're still operating from those old paradigms, those old stories of lack and victimhood,
Hmm.
then it's going to come through in our adult interactions. And, like you
Hmm.
said, we're going to take things really personally.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so cool. I love it. It's only been really the last 15 years somatic work came on board, and then the IFS, your internal systems work and part systems, even though like even you can go back to Gestalt and Jung, and they already had that stuff going. We just didn't have the labels for it. And so for those of you here, and she said the children inside of you, and you're going, wait, I don't have children inside of me. It's because at different ages and different levels. And so sometimes when we talk as practitioners, we know what we're saying, but I want to just clarify for those of you who are listening, you know, um, and I have people say this all the time. It's like, yeah, my 13-year-old is trying to be in charge right now, or yeah, my 9-year-old, or yeah, my young 20-year-old is over there, feeling like it, needs love. And so until the integration is healed through those different parts, you'll often have that. But after that integration happens, it's almost like that feeling of wholeness that you don't even recognize them being the same, because when you heal it and you get to go through true healing with inner child, it actually integrates and the inner child comes up to where you are, so which is so cool. So I just kind of want to share that, as just as those who are listening, we're not crazy over here, and we're not, it's not like we hear voices that are something outside of us, and those, even if you do hear voices outside of you, you're not crazy. Today we understand that there are a lot of people who have different gifts, And and I think that's really beautiful and important. Even biblically, we talk about prophets. And so somewhere in there we have gotten into a lot of sideways information, and now we're just kind of coming back to going, hey, what is this? What does this mean? There used to be a time and place. If a person said that they saw something or heard something, had a visualization outside of them, that they would say, oh, this person's schizophrenic, and we would lock them up. Well, I even in the early 90s, I would have lots of people who experienced sexual trauma who had dissociative hallucinations, but did not want anybody to know that because they were afraid they would get locked up. And so when you did the integrative work with them and healing work, they were able to heal those parts. And there was no more of that fractal. So we talk about like it's a fractal of the system, a fractal of the brain system, a fractal of the body system. And I'm not saying that that's every person that deals with that. Schizophrenia is real as well. And we can look at brain images to tell the difference in schizophrenia and PTSD. But when people hear that, I just want to also clarify that we know today that that's not exactly the way that that works. And there's lots of people who experience hallucinations and delusions and things that have gone through horrific trauma, even combat trauma, not just sexual trauma, that's created that place and space where they have to go through a healing of those fractals. So just kind of wanted to share that. So I am so excited about this journey. I'm so excited about the HIT retreat and all that. And I call it the HIT retreat, Healing and Truth Retreat. It's so needed that people have a place where they can come and share. Not everybody's able to just hear that journey with people. And sometimes that can feel bad too, because if you go to share something and you're still in a very trauma response and you're sharing it with somebody and that person is like, I can't talk to you about that. Just know that that's not your fault and that's not their fault. That sometimes those individuals, it re triggers their own traumas and they're not in a healed space where they can hold that space for you. And I try to tell people all the time that it's not because they're trying to be rejecting or demeaning or unloving, but it is real that some people get really traumatized themselves when they're not in that complete healed spot. And when I say complete healing, let me just say, I still go through triggers. That doesn't mean I can't hold space because I've learned it a different way. And as practitioners, we learn a different way. Not everybody can be in that space and hold that space. And that's not because they're bad people and because they don't love you, but because they're not trained to do that. And it may be triggering their own triggers in their life. So, what's your
Yeah.
thinking and thoughts on that, Virginia? Have you ever had that experience where people come to you and go, like nobody wants to listen and nobody's there for me, and as you've been able to share with them, what comes up for you?
Well, it's the same thing that you're talking about. People, so many people have been traumatized. And when, like you said, you're in that state of maybe not even actively in the trauma, but somebody brings something up. Because I can remember years and years ago, before I got into this work, and somebody would talk about, a trauma that they had experienced, and I would start to feel myself going into that almost
Mm-hmm.
panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was bringing up things that I had pushed down and tried to bury,
Yes.
and now here it is coming up, and oh my gosh, I have to deal with this because you've just brought this up, and it has nothing to do with that other person other than they were the trigger that
Yes.
that brought it up. So
Yes.
yeah, it's finding a practitioner, somebody who's been trained or who has done enough of their healing work that they are
Mm-hmm.
able to hold that space. And it's reminding me of this story that I heard years ago, and I'm going to paraphrase, and it's probably not going to come out exactly correctly, but um, there's a story about a grandfather who gives his grandson an old beat up watch,
Mm,
as
mhm,
he's on his deathbed. And he says, grandson, I want you to take this to a couple of places and see what you can get for it.
mhm,
And so the boy takes the watch to a pawn shop, and the pawn shop says, "Oh, it's beat up. It's not in great shape. We'll give you $5 for it," right?
mhm,
And then the boy takes it to another place, and maybe like a consignment shop or something, and they're like, "Well, we can put it on sale for about $10. You're not going to get much for that." And then the boy takes it to an antique dealer, and the
mhm,
antique dealer looks at it and says, "Oh my gosh, this is a such and such watch. This is a rare collectible, and it's worth millions of dollars. Where did you get
mhm,
this?" So it's recognizing where you're safe, where you're going to be valued. And it's not to say that the people who you're trying to talk to don't value you, but if
mhm.
they're in that triggered, traumatized state, they're not going to be able to bring value to you, right?
That's right.
So finding those people, practitioners that have been able to cultivate holding space and listening, because all these beautiful techniques that we have, these modalities, yes, they work and they're great, but one of the biggest things that I have witnessed through my years of doing this work is when somebody is truly listened to,
Mhm.
that
That, mm,
that transforms at a deep
yes,
level.
yes, yes. And that being able to speak it, clearing that area that I can finally speak it and I'm heard in a way where I'm received and loved and understood. And I can't remember which president it was that said the greatest gift that you can give anyone is that of understanding. I think it was Theodore Roosevelt or something. But anyway, I remember that being something that I always thought, you know, that gift of just being able to understand someone. You don't have to agree with somebody to understand that this is something that's happened or is a part of them or they're going through or whatever, like I think that's the most beautiful when you get into true healing. You can love your neighbor and not agree with your neighbor. You can love your mate and not agree with your mate. You can love your kid and not agree with your kid, but you can form this beautiful relationship with and not feel the need that you have to change their story.
Yes.
So beautiful, right? So, yes, I love that so much. So well said. So, if you're listening to this and you've been thinking, I really need to do some healing, we would love to have you at the Healing and Truth Retreat. It's September 20th and 21st. It's in Weatherford. There's a Labor Day sale right now until the 15th, I think, as we have that on. So check the links below. If you're going, I can't make that retreat, but I want to know how I can get involved, feel free to reach out to any one of us. We would love to connect with you. Always know that you're not alone. And let me just say, I say this to everybody, and it's absolutely true. You were born a masterpiece. You were born a masterpiece. Beautiful, wonderful, amazingly made. At this part, your soul, when you die, it's not your brain that goes to heaven. It's not your heart that goes to heaven. It's not your body that goes to heaven. We've proved by science that yes, there's neurological memories in those spaces. It's our soul. And at your deepest, you are pure, beautiful love and light. And God created you magnificent masterpiece. And we just want to show you how to clear some of this stuff up to remember who you were always created to be. And with that said, we love you. And is there something else you want to share? And also, Virginia, share how people can reach out to you.
Yeah. So first of all, I am so honored to be a part of this retreat. There are so many beautiful women who are coming together, who have done the healing work, who, you know, can really hold space for you in whatever, wherever you're at on the spectrum of healing. And even if you haven't experienced the trauma, just to be in this space with other women who are doing this work, it's going to be amazing. And I'm so, so grateful and honored. And I hope that, you know, that you can come and join us. And
Yes.
um, yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me.
Yes.
And you can reach me through my website. It's called twojaguarjourneys.com.
Okay.
Or Facebook is an easier way. That's under my name, Virginia Underwood.
Awesome.
I have my book on Amazon, so if you just
Yes. Make
put
sure
in
you
my
do.
name or
Mhm.
Stumbling Towards the Heart, it should pull
Yes.
up the book. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And I'll put the links down below for all those things, all the different links that she has. And we're just excited for you to come and be loved. And we just love you all so much. And for all of those listening, be blessed and be a blessing. Until next time.